All right, good morning. We'll be going live in about 1 minute. All right, I see something popping up. So good morning. We getting ready to get started. We're just trying to invite more people. So it's 8 o'clock. We're gonna start on time. We're gonna try to make sure that every time we do this, that we do it with excellence and start on time. When we don't start on time, trust me, it's not Millicent's fault. It's my fault. So today we are going to continue with our uh, talking about finances. This will be a finances get out of control too. Good morning. I'm Gerrol.
I'm Millicent.
And we are here to talk about marriage matters because your marriage matters. So last week we went over some things and quite a few scriptures. So I hope that you had an opportunity to discuss those or go over those or read those. It's very important that we establish that foundation on one, the Malachi 3 and 10, as far as what we do with the money before everybody else gets their hands on it. Right. I know we talked about tithing. We talked about tithing off the gross instead of the net. That is a practice that we do. I can't speak for other people, but that's something that we do. So if the government and federal income tax and Medicare can take their chunk out, then quite naturally, if we put God first, then we're going to say to God that this is what we're going to take out before everybody else. Well, it was already done. Well, we still have the opportunity to do it because we have the money and we have the fluid funds in real time. So we can take the money out, the 10%, and we can plant it in a place where we're being fed.
Right.
So before we get started, I'm going to make a declaration to my wife, and I'll just continue what I said last week. Basically, going into this next week, it'll be a holiday after Friday. So I want to make sure that, things that we do are centered around the family, that we do things together when we can, because we're on a different work schedule now. But we will find things to do where we don't allow work and everything cloud or take away from the time that we can be spending together. So just like we're talking about prioritizing finances, this is going to be more of prioritizing family time and fun to be able to spend time with each other and do things with the kids. So right. We're not going to pass up an opportunity to do that. So that's going to be my declaration to you, to figure out how we're going to make this work because we're on two different work schedules during the time when it's going to be a break. So we will have some fun somehow, some way, some shape, fashion, or form.
Okay.
So we'll do some things and enjoy that. And the kids are working too. Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to leverage, but we found ways to do it. And they enjoy trying to find ways to leverage that time, knowing that they do have schedules. So that lets me know what's important to them or what we have built to show them what's important to us so that we don't miss opportunities with our children just because we're working or just because we're tired or just because we got other things to do. Right. That's something that we've really embedded.
So I'll stick to my declaration too and try to be more spontaneous because I'm more of
Mm,
a planner. I don't like when things are not planned. And then when stuff is planned and it get kind of thrown in my plan and knock it off kilter, that's
mm.
kind of so I'm working on that. That's one of my things, guys, that I'm definitely still working on. So that's my declaration is to try to be more spontaneous because like he said, everybody's got these different work schedules. So I can't complain about, oh, I'm tired if the girls want to go do such and such.
Mm,
I'm gonna have to come home, get ready, and just go out the door
mm.
because once those times are gone and they grown and gone, you don't get
You
those
don't
back.
get that.
So I'd rather make the sacrifice now and enjoy what I can get.
Mm.
So that's my declaration still from last week.
So what she really trying to say is that she's organized and I'm not. And sometimes my stuff work when hers don't, and she don't understand. So we're still using a book from Stormie Omartian, this book right here about a book of prayers for couples. And it's pretty good. We use it because we love it and because it simplifies things for us.
Right.
One thing about me is I don't like being confused. So if it's something where I'm confused or it's all that extra, it's not me. That's our dog making that noise. Oh, I thought that was the dog. Oh, so you gonna say something?
Good morning, everybody. I see it's quite a few people in here already.
Good morning, Miss Doris. Good morning, Miss Lena. Good morning, Georgia Ann.
Good morning,
Miss Di.
Good morning, everybody.
Miss Bruce. Doing Miss Bruce. All right, Brother Tori. Hey, Jay.
Good morning.
So good morning to every single one of you. I'm not sure.
All right, Lena, we on the same page.
AJ asked where you get the book from.
What store did you get the book from? The book, I actually found this book at Hobby Lobby for under $8. So AJ, you can get, and everybody else too, you can get the book from Hobby Lobby. They have it at Barnes and Nobles.
And it might be at Mardell's, but I'm not sure. It could be at Mardell's,
probably so.
Christian bookstore.
Right.
So we're going to talk about first. We're going to go over this prayer. Can you grab that sheet for me right there, that other one, so that way if there's anything, that way if there's anything I need to be able to discuss from that. So I'm gonna read this prayer, and my wife's gonna read it. With you gonna read it?
Sure.
All right.
Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Christina. How are you?
Okay. So when finances get out of control too, it says, Lord, I know that having good health, a loving and supportive family, a solid marriage, great friends, good and satisfying work, and a sense of purpose in helping others is the richest life of all. Help us to always put our sights on those clear priorities. Lord, I pray that you will bless us with provision and help us to always be wise in the decisions that we make regarding our spending. Give us the wisdom, the courage to resist spending foolishly. Help my husband or wife and me to completely agree on our spending as well as our giving.
All right.
Okay.
Well, how you doing there, Miss Christina? Good morning. So the reason why we want to talk about finances because we know that that's for some people that's a deal breaker for some people, and for us because I was broke, I guess that wasn't a deal that would break us because I didn't have any money. But the issues that we see is that we've been through the highs, the lows, and the embarrassing moments of spending foolishly. We've been through all of those. Just don't look at me.
What's the name of that Clint Eastwood movie? The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
Yeah, we've been through the good, the bad, and the ugly with all of this. So now we see a little glimpse of light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
And we've changed some of our habits and how we do things. And so we did discuss last week, about Malachi 3:10, about bringing the tithes in the storehouse and doing right by God first.
Right.
Now, I want to bring attention to this word IS, and it's called impulse spending. When you see something, I have to have it.
Right now.
Regardless as to what the priorities are that you are supposed to be taking care of, you start, I have to have that. Good morning, Miss Charlie. Good morning, Miss Cassandra. Oh, we said at the same time. What's going on? So the issue with that is we really need to be really disciplined because we've been through the impulse spending of ourselves. I'm gonna tell you something, and I'm gonna share this and be transparent.
See, LaWanda, stop that.
What's
that Macy's one-day sale. You absolutely right. It will get you every time. So stay away.
Yeah, but I'm the money police, so I have a little bit more discipline. But one of the things that's interesting is that I remember when we would go to the store and we would get, I mean, it would be like the basket would be so full, it would be stuff all at the top. And then we would be on our way to the register and we'd be like, how much of this stuff do we really need? And we start taking all that stuff out. People be looking at us like, what are y'all doing? We wouldn't do it actually in the line. We would just go back and put that stuff up.
Yeah.
You know, because if we're gonna, and this is when we were really impulse spending. So if we're gonna be more disciplined in that, then the issue is that we're going to watch what we do.
Right.
You know, and everybody has a quality of life that they want. I'm not telling you that you can't buy name brand stuff or you do whatever you think you need to do for you. But I know for us, it was an issue. And that's not gonna get God's attention when you're asking to be blessed, when you're not even being disciplined over the finances that you gave you. But then you tithe, yes, we did that. That's a part of our responsibility as a Christian. But that has nothing to do with the discipline and the priorities that are supposed to be set that we're supposed to be in charge of.
Exactly.
You know, we can't spend everything and then be trying to get to the next check attitude. That's not what
I was
the
credit card queen. I had a credit card for almost every store you could possibly think of. Mm-hmm. And when I wanted it, I went and got it.
And what that can do, for some people, that can really drive a wedge in between you and your spouse.
Exactly.
It can cause y'all to really just split away and not be together. Because when you're trying to build something together, it can't be like a treadmill. You standing on one side, cheering somebody on, but they're going nowhere because they're on the treadmill. Even though the incline is up, they're not going anywhere because they're trying to keep up with other things that is not the priority of the home. So we learned our lesson, and we are more disciplined in what we are going to go and get. If we're going to get something from the store now, we're more disciplined about what list we're going to make, and we try to adhere to everything that's on there.
Right.
We make sure we look and see what's inside of the home before we go out and get anything. Now, this is one of the things that I will say. I know that she want to go get something. So what I have to do is, because even though she may think that she's looking at all them dollars, she write it down. I got every red cent in my head. So I already have a stop sign in my body when we go to the store and she's ready to start getting things. We're going to get something, and that's going to be it.
There you go,
one of the things though, but okay. Okay. I come from being broke. So saving money mean money in happy wife, Miss Wanda. So and I'm trying to get better at that. So one of the things that is very interesting about the priorities is that we stay true to what we have on this board.
Yeah.
And so we stay true to that, looking at monitoring finances, even down to the utilities.
Right.
So since the utility bills has a last year and this year projection, then we know if we overdoing it at some points of the year based on whatever. It could be that it was colder last year than it was this year. And so, you're able to kind of balance that. Right. Even though the electricity company is going to say, okay, you're going to get balanced billing. Well, if that's the case, then if it's hotter or colder in a season, your bill should always be the same. And that's not always the truth. So we watch those things and we monitor those things so that we can watch how we're spending. We've started looking at the things that we may have to do, whether it's clothes or vehicles or whatever. Right. And so because of Christmas and all these things that people get sometimes in debt for, we never get in debt for Christmas because we deal with saving for Christmas in a different way. Right. So for vacation. So for well over at least 15 to about 18 years, we just have money going to that stuff. Right. And so when it's time for Christmas, and every year we just take what that is, that amount, and somebody gonna get something with that. No credit cards so we don't do nothing at all. And we just pay cash and we're done with that. Same thing with vacation. Now we're gonna save a little bit more for vacation this year because we want to go somewhere a little bit more fun or whatever or further out. But the thing that I'm saying is, no matter what it is, you need to prioritize for that. So that way you won't find yourself not having what you need to have. So what we do is on this board, we have our utilities, we have the bills for whatever, house note, car note, whatever we have. And one of the things that we've done, and we may not be like other individuals, but if there's a major project that is expensive, I don't care what it is, we pay it off in a year. It no matter what it is. I don't care what it is. If we decide as a team that we're gonna have this particular thing, or if it's a house project, or if it's something with the vehicle, whatever it is, and it's expensive, if we finance something, or we do something where it's you can pay, and as long as you pay in a year, you'll have no interest, right, then we pay it off in a year. So that way you don't be on the other side of whatever. Good morning, Ms. Rachelle. So we don't be on the other side of dealing with finance charges and all that other foolishness because we're done. When there are other purchases, then we just do the envelope system that we learned from Financial Peace University. Right. If it's something that we want to do, then we start an envelope for that. We save up the money. Well, what if it's not there when you get there? So what? They'll go find something else that looks like it. And probably gonna find something better anyway. Whatever it is, then we go on and buy it, and we're done. We don't have to worry about financing anything. We saved up what we need to save. So if it's tires, stuff that we know that are large purchases, right? If you got a vehicle and you got some 13, 14-inch tires, you ain't got to worry about nothing. But if you got some 20-inch tires or 18-inch tires and they big, that stuff is expensive. So should your spouse know your salary?
Okay, well, what I would say is it depends on what the spending habits are. Because if you know that you're tight, I'm not gonna say tight, but you.
Did she touch me? Oh no, this is over with. This is over with. Y'all didn't see what she did. She put her hand on me. I'm gonna stop that. She put her hand on me. Charlie, Charlie, time out. Give me like 10 seconds. She hit me. I wish y'all could have seen that. I'm sorry. She hit me. Oh man. Woo. If I'm tight, then I own it. But one thing I can say, I'm getting closer to the screen. One thing I can say is the gifts that I give, they not tight. Yes, they not tight. So
okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, ooh. Oh man.
Okay, Charlie. What I'm saying is, if you know that you're excellent with the finances and your spouse is not, that's something that needs to be discussed. And the question is, are the finances together? Y'all have separate accounts? These are all things to take into consideration. I mean, of course, if you have I guess I just answered my own question.
Well, the thing is, it's tough for us to answer that because everybody's in a different situation. So whether you got a joint account or you have separate accounts, you really just need to be able to have financial meetings so that you can prioritize, well, if this is what I'm responsible for, and that person is really good at doing that, then they do that. And if you're responsible for something and you're really good at doing that, then you do that. But these are kind of the conversations that you really need to have together. We can't really answer that.
And it's really based on different situations.
Mhm.
So like for us, we've always known what the other person made. We've always had one account. And I guess that's what makes the difference is whether you have a joint account or a separate account.
Mhm.
But even in that, and I'm going back to several weeks back when we talked about being able to walk humbly before God, you should be able to walk humbly with and before your spouse.
Mhm.
So that's kind of part of that,
Mhm.
because it's being, are you at that point where you can be open and honest with each other?
Yeah.
So that's how I will answer that. Okay,
Mhm.
separate. So are you at the place where you can walk open and honestly with each other? Because if we're walking as one,
Yeah.
then you should be able to do that. You know, you have your different responsibilities, but the overall thing is, and especially if you're going to have budget meetings,
Mhm.
you really can't get around that,
No, that's
knowing,
just.
what your spouse makes. But again,
Mhm.
that's all a part of coming into being one accord
Yeah.
too.
So she in a nutshell, y'all have to really sit down and talk about that and really be able to uh, deal with that. And I know that if you think that a person is not really disciplined, then therein lies the prayer that you pray for your spouse is that, Lord, I pray for my spouse that they're disciplined in the finances, that they're disciplined in the priorities that we set. So if we set these priorities and we're supposed to be covering these things, whether you have a joint or separate account, then those things should be taken care of and taken care of on time. So pray for that atmosphere to be able to have that conversation. If that conversation hasn't been, discussed together, and
Yes.
then go from there. So that way you create a safe space for y'all to be able to even talk about that if that's something that has not occurred yet. Um, and go from there.
Right.
I think that would be the best answer that we can give you. Um, one of the things that I want to really just say is that, the journey that we've been on, we're trying to get to a place where we can increase saving, but also we want to be in a place where we can increase our giving. I
Right.
think that if you know that you're giving into fertile soil, then the blessings that fall upon those individuals will be also windows in heaven that will be open for you. Not because you're trying to do something to receive anything, but because of the love and the gift of God, and He's blessed you above uh, what you could think or ask.
Right.
Then when He does speak to you or speak to your wife about doing something, then you will be able to do something of that nature.
Mhm.
One of the things that I want to share with you is that as you walk and take this journey together, those are the type things that can be very enlightening.
Right.
So if my wife says that God spoke to me and blah blah blah, and we want to give this amount, I've learned that when she says that, that has been the case, and so we have to pull back from, wow, that could be a lot of this, that, and other, but we don't know what God is going to do with that.
Mhm.
What I do know is that if we have to sit there and question it and wonder and doubt and all of those things, then the blessing that can come out of that can be prolonged only because of our inability to trust
Right.
God with the finances. And therein lies one of the things that couples, or people that are potentially pursuing the opportunity to be as a team have, because some people may not trust God totally with everything. And that goes for anybody that's living for God. You know, some things gonna hit you in the face and be like, well, God, that's a little bit outside my comfort zone. And that's not what God's trying to do, is make you comfortable. He just wants you to be uncomfortable so you don't get complacent.
Right.
So when we look at how we can be a blessing and all those things, if our priorities are in line and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing as a service and as a respect and as children of the Most High God, then when he speaks to myself or Millicent about giving, it shouldn't be an issue. Right. Because when you're on one accord and you make these decisions, then God is going to be in the midst of them, and you don't have to worry about, well, that's a large amount of money, or, you know, maybe we'll do this instead. That's not what God asks you to do. It's instead. If he asks you to do something, you need to do whatever that is. If he asks you to bless somebody with a set of tires, just go buy a set of tires. Well, what I'm going to have after that, then therein lies you won't be blessed, because you're over there questioning things that if God told you to do that, he going to provide for even more above a set of tires or a gift card for dinner or whatever it is. Just be looking for those opportunities to be a giver. All right. So I just want to go back to looking at the envelope system, kind of put that in perspective. So remember, like there's things that you want to do. There's a way that you can do that. And when you have that envelope, also attach a scripture to it so that you could already start putting these finances to work. Because even though you put the envelope and the money in it, go and attach God's word to it about what you wanted to do. And then when you go to purchase whatever that is, God may put a blessing upon that situation where something could be $500 to $600 less, and then now you got something where you can go drop off in the savings or college savings or whatever, just because you attached a scripture to whatever that envelope is that you were saving for, whether it's whatever it could be. It could be a clothes, it could be an outfit, it could be an expensive watch, whatever it is. Some people look at others and say, man, he got this and they got that, and they try to go and try to keep up. You don't know how they purchase that stuff. They could have purchased that stuff out of being disciplined and saving, and not just because they were doing some kind of impulse spending because they had to have it. Well, I know how much they make. Ain't nowhere in the world he could afford that or she could afford that. That's not your purse.
It's called stay in your lane and keep your eyes off what your neighbor's doing.
That's one thing I don't worry about. So if there's something that I want to get, I will save for it, and then I'll just go get it. And so it's very important. It is very, very important that, again, when doing these things, you must agree together or it will not work.
Right.
When we make these decisions, and especially if it's a large purchase decision, and we say we're going to pay off something in a year, then we both have to be disciplined, because if we enter into an agreement or a contract and then we say, okay, this is what we're going to do, we can't be doing any kind of impulse spending anything, because if you don't pay something off in a year, and hear me out, this is us, so I'm not talking about anybody else, and you enter an agreement where there's no interest, the day that you don't pay it off, the next day, all that interest is going to pile up on that next bill. So whenever we say we're going to pay something off in a year, we actually do it in 11 months. We don't even do it in 12. Right. Because we make sure that we got a 30-day cushion. That's for us. The goal is to really be able to save for whatever that is and be able to pay that straight out. Right. But if it's a very, very large purchase and we don't want to exhaust our savings, then we're going to use that as a means to be able to take care of that type of that type of item or whatever it is that we're going to get. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we actually do it in 11 months instead of 12. I made that correction because we don't actually do nothing for those 12 months. We make sure we knock it out in 11.
Right. Mm-hmm. Because we've done that with the windows. Mm-hmm. And the air conditioning units too. So those large purchases, but the key is don't go make one large purchase and then 5 months down the road, you go make another large purchase.
No, don't do that.
You know, and then 2 months down the road, you go and get something else. You know, if you want to make a large purchase and it has to go on a credit card, and it, like he said, if it's a no interest thing, then you budget how much you need to pay a month for 11 months and then get it done. So if that means cutting out something else to get that done, then that's what you do. If that means, okay, no going out to eat and not going to the movies, okay, so be it. But I really need that washing machine and dryer. So which one do I want? Let's buy the washing machine and dryer, cut out the other stuff, and take the money that we would pay on for those things and take that on to what we would do for the wash and dry, because that's what I really need.
Yes, it's called prioritizing. So with her saying that, that is one of the ways that you can really knock out things. So let's say that you have a large purchase, or you have a credit card bill that's really up there, and you have other things that you need to deal with, but they may not be the most expensive one. So when you start your envelope system and you say you want to deal with a bill, you start saving for that, and you pay a little bit more. Once you pay off that first one, whatever you use to pay off that first one, you attach that one to the payment of the next debt. And now you pay what you would be paying off the one that you paid off, you attach it to the next one. Now you're doubling the payment for the second one. And then when you pay that one off, if it's the third one, now you got 2 forms of money, and you apply that to the next one. Right. And now what you're doing is you're building momentum. You still having meetings where you're discussing the other priorities, and you're able to get these things done. You're building up your credit, you're establishing your name, and you're not being up under the thumb of somebody else. You know, the goal is, like you said, Jesus wants the government to be not, upon our shoulders and not be trounced by the government, because we're putting ourselves in positions to be a borrower and not a lender. So we're working on that, Millicent and myself. But one of the things that we do is we monitor that. We teach our kids how to monitor that. We teach them how to put their things on this board also, and they do. Right. Because they're not always going to be living with us. And our goal is to teach them not to have any debt and save and pay for anything they want to pay for cash anyway. And they're doing a really awesome job of doing that. So one of the things that we just want to say is just, thank you for tuning in. And we hope that the things that we discuss, this is just real life stuff. Right. And don't get me wrong, we're not saying that this is the system or way of doing things for every single couple. We're just talking to you about what we have done to elevate ourselves from a situation that was not good, using God's word and being blessed in the process, and understanding not to return back to a state of living like that. Because that's not good for our children. That doesn't teach them and give them foundational skills on growth. So we just want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Please share the video. We are looking at the videos and they're being shared. And also, if ever need to go back and look at any of these, we have a YouTube channel. All you have to do is type in Gerrol and Millicent. It will show up. I think we have at least now 20 videos on those channels. Right. And so that way you can go back and look at anything, stop, pause, find the scripture, do whatever it is you need to do in order to be able to gain some insight on something. And please be reminded that when you all give comments, if there's something on there that you do that can help somebody else, we want to be able to say that. Right. Because that way, the more things that we have in our toolkit, the better we are to be able to improve in these different areas that we're talking about when we have this discussion. Right. I know, going back, I know LaWanda Lindsay put on here www.billadvisor.com is a good one. So go check it out and see
what other tools you can get to put in your toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
That may help you navigate through life here.
That's going to help you navigate. So do you want to close it out and read some of those blessings that fall out of Deuteronomy 28?
Yes, and definitely I want you all in your time, because it's a lot, but it is such a blessing to go back and read Deuteronomy 28, but to read all of it, that whole chapter. Because I think we just focused on Deuteronomy 28, 12 through 13.
Mm-hmm.
So where did you want me to start?
You can start wherever you want to, and then you can kind of just let them, kind of hear what those blessings are from when you're being obedient to God, and also to those finances and what He will do, not just for you in your present, but also looking at what He could do to bless you in the future.
Okay.
Right.
So this whole chapter is about blessings for obedience, is what it is. Because even in verse 2, so Deuteronomy 28 and verse 2 says, all these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. So I'm going to go down to verse 7. And it says, the Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee from you in 7.
Flee from you in 7.
The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hands to. The Lord your God will bless you in the land He is giving you. The Lord will establish you as His holy people, as He promised you on oath, if you keep the commands of the Lord and walk in obedience to Him. Verse 10 says, and all the peoples on earth will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they will fear you. The Lord will grant you abundant prosperity in the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock, and the crops of your ground, in the land He swore to your ancestors to give you. And then it goes on to 12 and 13, which we focused on last week. But then after that, verse 15 talks about the curses for disobedience. So that's why we say read the whole chapter, because it's got a lot in there for you,
All right. So we want to thank you again for tuning in with us this morning. We really appreciate that. You could be doing something else. So next week we'll be talking about finances a little bit more in depth, and then we'll talk about some specific things that we can kind of work on, and talk about some goals to set financially, about probably one of the things about, saving, and what would be your goal in that. Some people save more than they spend, and that would be a good practice to do. But we do understand that life happens. But what we want to prepare you for is that when life happens, you don't have to worry about going and using a credit card to get in more debt.
Right.
When you go into your savings, you have so much in there that you're able to deal with some of the things that can hit you when life punches you that way. But obedience to God, obedience to the tithe, and obedience to the giving is going to be a blessing for you and for your household. Right. It's going to teach your children to understand about being a giver, not being tight-fisted, if I can say it in that way. Good morning, Rodney. It's good to see you.
And another thing too, invite your kid when you have budget meetings. Let them sit in on your budget meetings so they can just get an idea. These are the things that we're dealing with.
Yes.
I know when we started doing that with our kids, I noticed that certain things, how they would ask for this and ask for that and ask for this and ask for that. When we started inviting them to them budget meetings, they kind of cut down on some of that stuff, because they were getting a better understanding. Okay, this is what we have to deal with.
Yeah, that's one of the things that because then they started looking at, wow, this is how much things cost. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Right,
this is how much things cost. And now because they paid a light bill, oh, man, now they understand, Dad, you need to cut the light off. Daddy, cut that light off. Yeah, because you're paying the bill. Now you understand.
That's right.
You appreciate it more when you're paying for it, because when you weren't paying for it, you leave everything
So
on.
when they would go through the room in the house and leave all the lights on, now the oldest two, which split the bill. So we split the light bill 3 ways.
Mm-hmm.
I just sit back and laugh because I watch them as they go through the house and they cutting that off, cutting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now you see what we were
So
trying
now
to tell
you
you before.
understand. But
Mhm.
that's teaching them responsibility.
Yes.
They're getting it because our goal, everybody as parents, is to make sure that our kids are prepared for life when they walk out their door.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that when they leave our home to go live on their own, they should know how to manage their own finances.
Mm-hmm.
They should have their own bank accounts
Mm-hmm.
and be able to navigate through that part.
And they should not come back.
Well, that doesn't always happen, but it's different when you come.
I'm talking about when it's that
When
time
when
when
you
they're
come
ready
when
to
you
go,
have to
though.
come back home and it's not a choice, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, I can honestly say that our oldest, she has been out there and had her own place, but I didn't worry about her
Mm-hmm.
because she handled her
Good
business.
morning.
She handled her finances and was able to do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing that we want is that when your kids walk out their door, to be able to handle their business and you as a parent
Mm-hmm.
don't have to worry about it,
Yeah.
your job is almost done. I won't say completely done, but almost done.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's one thing that we can definitely hang our hat on. Is that first one, got it.
Yeah. So we gotta work on the others. But the thing is, these are the type of crucial conversations that we have to have with them so that they can understand about money and finances and being able to pay the things they need to pay, because they pay their car note, they pay the stuff that's dealing with their vehicles, and we just try to guide them along the way. Mm-hmm. And if it's some large purchases they have to do with their vehicles, because some things do come up.
Right.
And I don't care what kind of plan you got on a car, they don't last forever. So when that plan is out, you're going to have to make some adjustments to make sure that anything that you have to pay for dealing with that vehicle, mm-hmm. you're going to pay cash money, and you want to do that.
I'll even say this: even if your child is 10 or 9, if they have any sense of what tithes are and paying tithes, mm-hmm. then they should be able to kind of, be included in on some of the other stuff. Because you were establishing a foundation, mm-hmm. building a foundation.
And they learn how to live off the 90%.
Right.
And so they understand that it's not a curse. It's not a task. It's a lifestyle if you choose it. So like I said before, this is something that we've embarked upon, and we're going to continue to do what we know works for us. We share these things with you all. But again, as we talk about some of these crucial topics and some of these things that, may seem, trivial or whatever to other people, be mindful that you can comment on there. That way we can share some of the things that you're saying with other people that are listening, so that they can also have a way. Because the more, it's not, I'm not saying the way that we do something is the way. All we knowing is that that's something that we do that's been good for us. But we had to learn that through some serious hardships and some serious ups and downs. And so because of that, that's a place that we don't want to return to, because that's an unhappy place when you're not good over finances. So, I'm sorry, we're looking at a comment.
Our culture is never taught to manage money. Look how many celebrities and athletes go broke after 10, 15 years. So this is good. Yeah.
And you know what? And I just got some new information about that. Right. They actually said that 3 years after a athlete has retired, they're broke. Wow. 3 years. Not even, it's 3 years. And what I've noticed too is that the ones that are maybe not the starters or whatever, they're the ones